When you're dealing with Trump supporters, you gotta remember, they believe everything they spout. Yes, they do need to not admit that they were wrong, and that's part of the reason why they support the Traitors Party. But they actually believe the crazy things that are espoused on Fox Propaganda Network. A Brooklyn Center man claimed that his house was set on fire because of a Trump flag. Dennis Molala, arsonist and fraudster, plus so stupid that he thinks this is what Democrats do. I mean, he must have watched too much Fox Propaganda Network. He set his own house on fire and spray painted this. One of the things the media needs to stop doing is uncritically reporting like they did when this stupidity came forward. Biden is better than every Republican. But we hold our noses for the most part because it's either traitors or a corporate Democrat. And you just have to accept that he's not going to be perfect. But, he won't try to overthrow the United States after he loses an election. Black Lives Matter isn't about anarchy. It's about lowering crime. It's about stopping cops from breaking the law and violating civil rights. And anarchy and crime bill Biden? Just plain ridiculous. Democrats don't do this. Republicans do, because this is nutcase stuff. I mean, that person is great because he doesn't display the traitor flag like other Republicans. But that's even better. Still better than a lot of Republicans that fly the Nazi flag. The media didn't think. The media didn't even criticize or think at all about this guy saying his house was set on fire because of a Trump flag. When have Democrats ever gone to this level of stupidity? Now, watch the media here. Just let this idiot who set his own house on fire and risked his kids, his wife, and is going to be spending time in jail. Just listen to his stupidity and how much the media just does not care.
One burned the garage and trucks of a Brooklyn Center family last night.
They believe it was because of the Trump 2020 flags that were draped over them. Family says that they were sleeping when a large explosion woke them up. As Esme Murphy reports, the FBI and ATF have been called in to investigate.
I heard just a big loud boom or a bang. And the first thing for me was my kids, my wife. What's going on?
Deanna Mola snapped these images of her family's garage, trucks, and trailer as they burned shortly after 3 this morning. Graffiti on the garage said Biden 2020, BLM, and the anarchy symbol of an A with a circle around it. 2 3x5 Trump flags were on the trailer and truck. Dennis Mola saw 3 people running from the home. He focused on getting his children ages 2 and 5 months out.
Our family's safe. That's the main thing. All this is material. It's all material.
Yeah.
It's not as important as our families.
The family says they got these flags a week ago after Dennis, a contractor, got into a dispute at a work site over his support for Trump. They say ever since they've had them up, people have been driving by the house slowly, some even taking pictures.
We're just very happy to be alive and praise God that we're alive.
The family was also able to save 4 puppies from the smoke-filled garage. Their home suffered minor damage. They can't believe someone targeted them for their political beliefs.
It just shocked me. This kind of stuff should not happen, especially over beliefs of some sort.
One of the couple's surveillance cameras was blocked just before the explosion. Other surveillance cameras have been turned over to authorities. In Brooklyn Center, Esme Murphy, WCCO 4 News.
How can anyone believe that stupidity? This is CBS. You would expect that this blatant delusional stuff that he's spouting be uncritical on Fox, because that's literally the only thing they do. But Republicans spout it, Fox regurgitates it, and every single person in the media gets dumber. I would like to give a great shout out to this local news channel that stuck with the story and finally got to the truth. Take a look at this.
It was an alleged crime that at the time seemed to sum up the political divisions in our country. A man claiming a fire was started at his house in fall 2020 because of a Trump flag on display. But today, that incident was revealed to be a hoax.
Dennis Mola pleaded guilty in federal court to wire fraud for the insurance claims that he made and GoFundMe money that he collected after the fire. Lou Raguse was in court today and has more.
In an interview outside the charred remains of his camper and trucks in September 2020.
I was just thinking that it was not real.
Dennis Mola from Brooklyn Center told KARE 11 News he believed the motive for the arson was that someone didn't like his new Trump 2020 flag. After all, his garage was tagged with Biden 2020, Black Lives Matter, and the anarchist A symbol.
It doesn't matter what party we are, Republican, Democratic. I feel like this is just over and beyond terrible.
Making the story even more sympathetic, Mola and his wife describe getting their kids out of the house and saving puppies from the burning garage.
I couldn't see anything. I had to just feel for where the puppies were.
But the whole thing turned out to be a lie, a hoax, and Mola's insurance claims and GoFundMe money he collected, a crime.
Could you tell us why you lied, Dennis?
Inside a federal courtroom, Mola admitted he started the fire and he painted the graffiti so that he could make a $300,000 insurance claim and collect $17,000 in GoFundMe donations. He pleaded guilty to wire fraud, sobbing through much of the court hearing.
Very remorseful.
Yep.
No other comments, though.
Mola's attorney says the defendant paid back all the insurance money he collected and has saved enough to pay back the GoFundMe donations as soon as the court facilitates them.
The plea deal does not nail down a prison term, so when Mola is sentenced at a later date, he'll likely receive between 3 and 4 years in prison, although the judge has discretion to go lower. Back to you.
This is what should be on TV. What happened? Is it really that difficult? The idiocy that allowed Mola to set the fire, believing that Democrats would have done that, and getting no pushback, is why the American people are so quiet about the current overthrowing of the United States. They just haven't been informed. Alex Jones, massively stupid, down every single rabbit hole there was, and Republican conspiracy theorist, spouted nonsense time and time again. He was sued for the delusions and lost 3 cases because he peddled conspiracy theories to help Republicans. And then when he was sued, he didn't abide by any court ruling. He dragged this stuff out, thinking that he could get away with it. But he lost by default, which is insane in the first place, because when you go to court, you must provide evidence that the other side asks you for, because that's how our justice system works. You shouldn't get a Perry Mason moment. But he lost big in Texas, $50 million, and from the Daily Beast, it gets even worse. A jury decided Wednesday afternoon that InfoWars founder Alex Jones must pay $965 million for spewing lies that the 2012 Sandy Hook elementary school shooting was a hoax and that the grieving parents involved were paid actors. Jones' chaotic trial played out in Waterbury, Connecticut, 20 miles southwest of where 26 people were killed just over a decade ago. Jury deliberations begun August 6 and concluded Wednesday, with a 6-person jury ruling unanimously that Jones must pay nearly $1 billion for his hateful actions. This is only the compensatory damages. Next is punitive. Compensatory damages. Damages awarded to recover what is lost. So I would say that this might actually be a little low. How much money and advertising would it take to make Republicans believe the truth? So losing the last trial and being ordered to pay $50 million in the state of Texas didn't teach him anything new. Check out this video from a very interesting channel lately, Law and Crime.
Robert Parker's sitting right here. He's real, isn't he? Yes. And for years, you put a target on his back, didn't you?
Objection to the form of that, Judge.
Well, I mean, didn't you?
I've admitted I've said his name. It's true. I haven't said other people's names when I know who they are.
You put a target on his back just like you did every single parent and loved one sitting here, didn't you?
No, I didn't.
No, you didn't.
That's argumentative. It's speculative. There is no foundation for it, and it's inappropriate to this time.
These are real people. You know that, Mr. Jones?
I think you just told them to move on.
Just like all the Iraqis, but you liberals killed and love. It's just, you're unbelievable. You switch on emotions on and off when you want. It's just ambulance chasing.
Why don't you show a little respect?
Objection, Judge. I think that if you get what you give in this court. Objection.
You have families in this courtroom here that lost children, sisters, wives, moms.
Is this a struggle session? Are we in China? I've already said I'm sorry hundreds of times, and I'm done saying I'm sorry. I didn't generate this. I wasn't the first person to say it. American gun owners didn't like being blamed for this, as the left did, so we rejected it mentally and said it must not be true. But I legitimately thought it might have been staged, and I stand by that, and I don't apologize for it.
And don't apologize, Mr. Jones. Please don't apologize.
No, I've already apologized to the parents over and over again.
We know.
I don't apologize to you.
Objection.
Don't apologize to you.
You're going to do it again.
Objection, Judge.
Aren't you?
Objection. Objection. Argumentative.
Don't apologize to you.
Well, it's hard for me to get a word in edgewise.
It is, but
because
I think
your
there's
client,
one officer of the court and one witness and an officer of the court heard the objection.
And I can't rule on your attorney's. Excuse me.
I'm sorry, I'm screaming at you.
I can't rule on your attorney's objection.
I understand.
He's talking, and he may have to adjudicate.
You're right. I'm sorry. I'm trying.
These horrible people get awful attorneys when they are actually sued. They have lost so much money. And they have so much money. Why wouldn't any lawyer just take this? Because you could milk them for millions of dollars. You could become a very rich lawyer off of one suit. So why don't monsters like this get, the good lawyers? The Johnny Cochrans, the ones that can actually win the case? It's because these cases aren't winnable. The Republicans have gone so far into their idiotic nutcase stuff that when they're sued, they can't win. And since they're horrible people and refuse to listen to lawyers or do anything that is remotely reasonable, it significantly damages the lawyer. You know why that lawyer charged Twitler $3 million as a retainer? Because that might be the last client he ever has. He failed on the stand because of hatred and fear is what he knows. He has internalized the idiocy, and we got to remember the stupidity of the cult has been built over decades. It all goes back to Nixon and Reagan. So, we got to hear stuff like this from the trial. Harassers soon turned up their hate to another level. Barden said, threatening to dig up his son's grave, which the harassers also claimed to have defiled. To hear that people were desecrating it and urinating on it and threatening to dig it up, Barron said of his son's grave, I don't know how to articulate to you what that feels like, but that's where we are. There is nothing to InfoWars except a machine to turn out hate and fear. It's to generate money and nothing else. Fox Propaganda Network has better lawyers, but it's only a matter of time before they will be bankrupted for the lies they spout. If you care about this country, stand up and sue these people, because they can't get good lawyers, and they have clearly violated every norm and, well, let's face it, broken the law and intentionally inflicted emotional distress on all of us. If you got a claim, sue them, because you'll win and you will shut them up. We all should know by now just what kind of monster Putin is. He helped elect Hitler and has murdered people in other countries using chemical weapons, attacked the United States, been worthless, and it has no bounds. After the pathetic showing in Ukraine from a military that the oligarchs have stripped for every bit of Russian money that they could get, they were sent into the meat grinder in Ukraine. Then he moved to talking about criminals and pulling them out of prison and throwing them into the jars of death, assuming that it might win him the war. Well, that failed, and now the pardons that these people were supposed to be getting, well, now they are getting worthless pieces of paper instead. Russian inmates who were yanked out of prisons to fight in Ukraine have begun receiving their promised pardons for taking part in the war, but legal experts say the supposed pardons are actually bogus, and the program is to be expanded. The Russian Defense Ministry is making a special forces unit from prisoners, so they lose on the battlefield, and they are going to empty the prisons and throw them at Ukraine. It will decrease the bleeding, well, the economic bleeding. Don't have to house prisoners if you get most of them killed before shipping those left over back to prison, because they're not actually being pardoned. Those with injuries will probably die, so they will have to spend even less on the prisoners. And Russian prisons are quite horrible. Here's a PR stunt from the Wagner Group. 3 of 4 of these men are missing body parts for a lost war and a piece of worthless paper.
Кровью, солдатским своим потом вы заслужили это помилование. Никто вам его не дал, не принес, вы его заслужили сами. Именно участием в боях, проявлением геройства. Поэтому рад вам вручить. Тебе вручается медаль за отвагу. Поздравляю, дай салат. Держи. Памятный знак ЧВК «Вагнер» за ранение. Грамота от начальника Национального центра управления обороны Российской Федерации. И самый важный документ, о котором я говорил. Справка об освобождении, о полном помиловании.
Now in the video, this is what they said. With soldiers' blood and soldiers' sweat, you earned this pardon. Nobody gave it to you. Nobody bought it. You earned it yourself, precisely for participation in battles and displaying heroism. A man off camera says that. These are criminals. So I don't have all that much sympathy. Rapists, murderers, and even a cannibal were pulled out of prison and sent into Ukraine to murder Ukrainians. However, this is further evidence that Putin will murder every single person in the world to get his way. Only the president can pardon, and this procedure is complicated and begins with the pardon commissions of regional public chambers. Regional public chambers have not considered anything, no petitions for clemency, so what kind of papers are being handed to the convicts? Who knows? So whatever's going on, it isn't about giving the prisoners a second chance. It isn't the first time, nor will it be the last time that Putin government just ignores our laws to get whatever's in Putin's head. This stupidity will only end when the war's over. And most likely all those prisoners released temporarily will be locked up once again, because putting rapists, murderers, and cannibals back out on the street probably isn't going to go over all that well. So, as we're finding out that the prisoners that actually survived the meat grinder in Ukraine are not going to actually get the pardons they were promised, and they were just more cannon fodder. And Putin announcing that he was going to take every single Russian and throw them into Ukraine because, sure, that's going to win him the war. Hundreds of thousands of Russians have escaped and ran away. More Russians have left Russia than actually showed up to join the military. And those showing up are getting old weapons, rusted weapons, and told that, they should be grateful because they don't actually need proper weapons. Russian troops in Ukraine are begging for mercy, with the dead and wounded reaching close, by conservative estimates, to 100,000. The 127th Rifle Regiment is looking for mercy. 127 is a mix of Ukrainian separatists and Russian draftees. They are having long interruptions of food and water while they are equipped with old, outdated weapons and protective gear. They are reasonably unhappy, as one of their sister units, the 109th Rifle Regiment, has already surrendered. They are actively complaining about their treatment and want to go home. It is surprising, and still only a matter of time till they surrender or they're completely eradicated. When soldiers get like this, they lose the war. Whatever Russia thinks they're drafting the Russian people and emptying out prisons will do, it won't. All Russia is managing to do is kill many more people, making it more likely that their nation is going to collapse. Where the massive brain drain as people that don't want to die escape the economic collapse and being thrown into the meat grinder, it is those with money, those with good jobs, that are actually able to leave. We've seen this brain drain last time, and it's one of the many reasons that the USSR, which is now Russia, actually collapsed. Those that are wounded and need lifelong treatment will further destabilize the country. In America, we still have issues getting treatment for our soldiers. And the amount of our soldiers that were killed and wounded are nowhere near what Russia is facing. And we spent 20 years at it. They spent 6 months. And they're at 10 times the number that we experienced. And the speed at which Russians are dying and getting wounded is increasing as, they're running out of gear. Relatives of mobilized service members prepare an appeal to the law enforcement agencies of the Russian Federation about significant losses and the inaction of the military command. The Ukrainian General Staff said, "I doubt their pleas will go anywhere, but it will damage Russia's war effort. And luckily, it will make for a quicker defeat." Boebert is being paid for betraying the United States. It is a job that stupid people can do, and now she is being sued. So she takes money to take random positions, and I heard that she's also has had sex for cash. So months back, she had a very bad day when American muckrakers have come out and said that she had multiple abortions and worked as a prostitute. This obviously didn't get the news coverage that the same accusations against a Democrat would. Republicans should be more covered with these accusations because there is this added level of hypocrisy. And not to mention, Republicans are much more likely to commit these types of crimes. Well, commit crimes at all. Let's face it. She was accused and she denied it. She said she was going to sue them. And didn't. The thing about this is, the trick that she played on the media is threatening lawsuits makes them less likely to cover something. Once the feeding frenzy starts, more information comes out. It's a great way to scare the media into not looking into something. However, you just might be careful about what you say because you can get sued. Lauren Boebert is now being sued. How sad. American muckrakers is suing her for defamation. The lawsuit states, this is an action for defamation and malice prosecution brought by a North Carolina citizen and a North Carolina nonprofit corporation who has been accused by a defendant of posting false information about the defendant and claimed the plaintiffs knew the information was false but published it anyway. Plaintiff Rila was subject to a temporary protective order, later vacated, that was obtained by the defendant through malicious prosecution as retaliation to daring to oppose her re-election to Congress by posting factual information and releasing it to the press. Plaintiffs are seeking, in addition to damages resulting from the defamation and malicious prosecution, to enjoin defendant from making further defamatory statements. If you say someone is lying, it is best you know not to be a prostitute. Yeah. So the American Muckrakers PAC believes that they were telling the truth. And why is that? They were told by many of Boebert's former friends that they have recordings of the interviews. This would be discoverable by Boebert now, and she could release them in their entirety. Once you get the recordings, she could release them and prove them wrong. She could also release the emails that they admit to having. When multiple people tell you something, maybe it's the truth. The filing reads, there is no evidence to back any of their claims. I am taking legal action against this guy, David Wheeler, and muckrakers, and we are moving forward with a lawsuit. That obviously was a lie because she never filed anything. This man was told by his sources that one of his allegations was made up before he released it. He knew it was false and he moved forward anyways, and he changed his story later. Well, that was also not true. She said, we are going to make sure this political hack never has the opportunity to do this to anyone else. Again, she didn't sue. You can't question the chastity of a woman, and that is what they are doing here. Yeah. Well, you can question it, and that's really not what they're doing. She also said radical Democrats want me out of office and they will lie and break the law to try to beat me. Wheeler didn't actually break any laws. They were banned by Fox and the right-wing media because, well, the media is built for Republicans. It didn't matter that they wanted to refute the lies Boebert was spouting. Boebert says, "This group's vile conduct demonstrates why people are fed up with politics. I am not going to stand by and pretend that this is normal behavior. The political committee, funded by far-left Democrat donors and run by 2 left-wing political operatives, published pages of false statements knowing that they were completely fabricated. The law on this type of defamation is clear, and this conduct will be subject to civil and criminal penalties. The reality is, Boebert is a coward and unwilling to bring suit because that opened her up to discovery. With the information that they have, they could have pinned down a lot more evidence if she brought the suit. And I thought this is what they wanted from the beginning. So because Republicans are stupid, she took the bait and provided ample reasons to sue her. Now that they can demand discovery because, well, there's a lawsuit. They received death threats because, obviously, that's what Republicans do. She also claimed that they said she was a drug addict. They didn't. They did say she used methamphetamines because multiple people told them she did. There are 35 factual assertions, and I don't know how they can lose. The fact that they brought the lawsuit, wow. Soon a politician is always difficult. They have power. And, well, she's going to have a fight. And hiding her records is going to be extremely difficult. Boebert said she was going to sue the donors, and the donors said they would stop giving them money because of her threat. That's not all that good. Boebert's lawyer was working hand in glove with Fox Propaganda Network as they had her lawyer's letters before American muckrakers. They are asked by a producer on that propaganda outlet about her lawyer's letters before they got the letter themselves. Please explain this letter that the lawyer sent to me and not to you. This would be... Once again, Republicans have bad lawyers. The lawyer, it seems, didn't do any research, but just wrote down what Boebert said. Never did they claim this, but this was in the lawyer's letters. Publishing a false text message claiming she was stripping at the time also. The statement is patently false, and the congressman had never been a stripper. Publishing a false text message regarding Congressman Boebert and her husband claiming they had a meth drug problem at the time. This statement is also patently false. Boebert uses donor money to pay taxes and reimburses rent. Both statements are false. These same false claims were dismissed by the Federal Election Commission in a publicly reported document. This is something we should talk about. The FEC is deadlocked because the Republicans on the commission won't investigate Republicans. It is good that we can get rid of Democrats that are corrupt because Republicans will vote for investigations into them, but Republicans get a pass, even when they commit so much more theft and crimes. Yeah. Getting back to it, so Boebert got that protective order because she never served Wheeler, and she continued to lie in the protective order, and it was removed because she got that most likely just for political gain. She writes, I have been repeatedly stalked, contacted, harassed, and threatened by David Wheeler, whose threats and actions include are not limited to, on May 26, 2020, David Wheeler approached me after a public debate, physically grabbed my right hand, and would not let go until after I forcibly pulled it away. Seems bad, right? But apparently Wheeler put in his suit that there is video of this. On June 9th, David Wheeler publicly posted a picture of him close to my home and Silt, Colorado. Contrary to Boebert's assertion in the paragraph above, Plaintiff Wheeler posted a selfie on a sign with Silt Gateway Park on the PAC's Twitter account. This park is 3.1 miles from the defendant's home. Plaintiff Wheeler posted it as part of his travels on behalf of the PAC so his children and supporters could see where he was traveling, and there was no threatening text posted along with the picture. Defendant had and does not have any evidence that Plaintiff Wheeler intended to physically harm her by posting a selfie for his kids and supporters. This isn't the only one of these. It is insane that the court hasn't dragged her back and demanded the prosecutors charge her for lying to the court. Muckraker's sloppy, reckless, and wildly irresponsible actions have created substantial legal liability for Muckraker's David Wheeler in his personal capacity and each donor to the organization who chose to fund the effort knowing it would result in defamation. Defendant's comments about donors in the paragraph above are without precedent. Never have donors in Plaintiff Wheeler's 40 years in politics been threatened with legal action for supporting a cause with their donation. This was a bald-faced statement, defamatory, meant to inflict as much damage on the plaintiffs in the form of curtailing their donor support, and it worked, as planned by the defendant. Libel, slander, punitive damage, malicious prosecution. Boebert, the talking head that Republicans made their representative, takes money to hold positions and violates the courts to bring reckless and known lies to her followers, sending them to attack people. This isn't a surprise, and I'm glad that people are starting to sue Republicans for their constant attacks, because letting these bullies get away with it will only make it worse for the next one. Now, in this video, pay attention when the the Secret Service, goes over to the dark side. They refused to turn over texts, lied about them being deleted, said they deleted after they were requested to be turned over to Congress for investigation. Also note how calm the anchor is about the party she helped build, turning on the United States and trying to overthrow it. There is no conceivable reason that she can use to delude herself, thinking that this was just the crazies getting wild. The information she has, there is no way even someone like her can delude themselves. And it should be clear that Republicans have turned traitor.
Jackie, take me through your reporting.
Well, I think the most notable part of my reporting from today with my colleague Carol Leonnig is some of these emails that we're going to be seeing tomorrow for the first time. Since the committee ended their last hearing, the Department of Homeland Security turned over a mountain of new evidence, as you pointed out, over 1 million different documents, although notably not the deleted text messages that the committee was originally seeking from January 6th and January 5th, but a lot of other emails, Microsoft Teams, and communications between Secret Service agents and other administration officials, which we're going to be seeing tomorrow. One of those emails that we may and are very likely to see is newly obtained documents between 1:30 and 2:30 p.m. where a Secret Service supervisor had checked in with Bobby Engel, the person who was with the former president, his sort of head body person, who was seeking an urgent update about whether or not Trump's plan to go to the Capitol, despite the very apparent violence that was going on, was officially quashed. This is another piece of information that is corroborative of what we've already seen from the committee, the testimony that we heard from Cassidy Hutchinson, and testimony we've heard from various other witnesses who knew firsthand of the former president's intentions on that day, despite the reports, the surveillance footage, and many other different streams of information that were coming in, notifying the White House and his top allies that there was violence and that there was the threat of violence as well.
They knew about the violence and just didn't care. That should make all the media understand that the Republicans are working for someone that wants to overthrow the United States. Any notion that the Democrats have to do anything to appease these people is asking patriots to appease traitors. The media will ask this within a week because they've been constantly asking the Democrats how that they are going to bridge the gap and bring this country together, how they are going to be nice to Republicans and get something done, ignoring the fact that Democrats have done more in the first 2 years than, 10 times what Trump did.
Let me play some of the radio traffic that illustrates what seems to represent where the investigation headed after that last public hearing.
There's an individual in a tree, maybe a white male, about 6 feet tall, thin build, brown cowboy boots. He's got blue jeans and a blue jean jacket, and underneath the blue jean jacket, the complainants both saw a stock of an AR-15. He's going to be with a group of individuals, about five to eight other individuals. 2 of the individuals in that group at the base of the tree, near the porta potties, were wearing green fatigues, green olive drab style fatigues, about 5'8", 5'9", skinny white males, brown cowboy boots. They had Glock-style pistols in their waistband. 8736 with the message that subject, weapon on his right hip. After that, he's in the tree.
Motor 1, make sure PPD knows they have an elevated threat in the tree south side of Constitution Avenue. Look for the Don't Tread on Me flag, American flag face mask, cowboy boots, weapon on the right side hip.
We got 3 men walking down the street in fatigue while carrying AR-15, copy at 4th People Independent.
Ron Johnson, your armed insurrection, is calling. Jackie Alemany, what's PPD stand for?
Yeah, I mean, that surveillance, that radio frequency, by the way, was very difficult for the January 6th committee to initially get their hands on. And once that frequency landed in their laps, there was a realization that Secret Service might not have been as forthcoming or cooperative as they had communicated that they were. This then caused the committee to go back to DHS and request every single channel of available radio frequency from that day. We do know that those frequencies and recordings were also handed over, so we could be hearing additional communications that was happening in real time played tomorrow, as well as new surveillance footage along the lines of what you just played, Nicole. A lot of this information as well, I should point out, is going to poke more holes in Bobby Engel and Tony Ornato's story, according to our committee sources. As one investigator said to me, this is going to point out that these guys were just not being very honest, including in their closed-door deposition when they often were responding to detailed questions that Cassidy Hutchinson was able to answer, but they were responding that they couldn't recall. And we've heard that the information that's going to be put forward really shows that that shouldn't have been the case, that these 2 men who were really integral to the president's actions that day, that they shouldn't have had such a short memory when it came to these various incidents.
I mean, Harry, the significance, and let me read some more of Jackie's incredible reporting with her colleague Carol Leonnig. So this is what they have. Some of the information, this is from Jackie and Carol's story, quote, some of the information the people said calls into question the previous testimony of Engel and Ornato, then a Secret Service leader who was serving in an unprecedented political role of White House Deputy Chief of Staff. Both men told the committee in closed-door depots that they could not recall certain events relayed by other witnesses, including Trump's demand that the Secret Service let armed people into his rally.
These people lying about not remembering what happened on January 6th? Can't we all Twitter being irate about allowing people into his rally with guns because they weren't there to hurt him?
They also write that one of the committee's newly obtained documents shows that sometime between 1:30 and 2 p.m., a senior Secret Service supervisor for protective operations emailed Trump security detail leader Bobby Engel with an urgent update and seeking to know if Trump's plan to go to the Capitol was successfully quashed. It came after a tumultuous hour for the Secret Service detail, which had effectively ignored a command from the president, which was to go down to the insurrection. Even with Trump back at the White House, Secret Service headquarters wanted to be sure the president was staying put. I mean, PPD, I believe, is presidential protective detail, and this means that they were communicating the threat assessment for the president's protective detail because they knew that he wanted to go to the insurrection. I mean, it seems that the committee now has him dead to rights as being fully aware, not just that there was violence in a vague sense, which you could see on TV, but he had the kind of granular details that there was 2 individuals at the base of a tree near porta potties wearing green fatigues, green olive dress house fatigues, 5'8", 5'9", skinny white males with AR-15 style weapons. He knew exactly what was there. He said, I'm the effing president. They won't shoot me, take down the effing max. It feels like all of the questions about the spontaneity of the violence and the president's knowledge of the violence are blown out of the water by the committee developing these threads of the investigation.
That's basically right, and that's the important point. This isn't about Hutchinson versus Ornato. Ornato's credibility is in tatters, and after all Hutchinson said is, this is what Ornato told me. But there's essentially no doubt, because of this transmission and others, that of course Trump wanted to go to the ellipse, and the broader point about his relationship to the violence.
This is where the Secret Service tried after the fact to hide that Twitter lunging at a Secret Service agent, because he couldn't lead the mob. The SS tried to protect him after the fact. One was under oath and told the story of how Twitler lunged for a Secret Service agent because they wouldn't take him to lead the mob against the United States. And the Secret Service agents went to the media and told them how this person under oath is lying. So who does the media take the word for? Yeah, because that's how it is. The media trust hidden sources of Republicans that clearly are lying over the testimony of someone. And it wasn't just that. It was, she said she was told this story. And the Secret Service, the SS, said that she was lying. Because they're around her 24 hours a day, knowing full well every single word that she was told. The fact that the media published articles quoting these people who have lied to the American people and can't remember what happened on January 6th, but, they're absolutely sure that she was lying. Yeah, this is what the media does.
He knew they were armed. He said, get them away from the magnetometers. He spurred on the violence. He watched as the violence proliferated. He later basically apologized for or sympathized with the rioters. That's the point here, not an Ornato Hutchinson point. This has become, maybe it started as a general history, but it's a tragedy now about one evil tyrant being Donald Trump. That's the focus they're going to keep it on tomorrow, and whatever the details of Ornato versus Hutchinson, the fact that Trump wanted, of course, to go there and foment even further his rabid followers, really, as you say, will not be in doubt.
Twitler loved the attack on the United States. It was all about him, and the SS tried to protect him, not the president. They were working to protect a traitor. The real question is, should anyone ever trust them again? No, they shouldn't.
Harry, what sort of exposure do people who may have lied to the committee have?
It's straightforward now, or I believe Ornato was not in deposition. It was an interview, but nevertheless, you make a false statement and the crime is 1001. It's a felony. You know, you could do 6 of these from every hearing. I don't expect that they will be wholesale, practice from DOJ in 1001s, but that's the exposure they have. And of course, if it's perjury, but that is to say they've sworn, it's worse. But it's against the law, but probably they'll get a pass.
This is the problem. The crazy Republicans are getting a pass. Don't like calling the SS Republicans? Well, they have supported and tried to cover up the overthrow of the United States to impose forever Republican rule. You can't pretend Twitler would have overthrown the United States so he can serve 4 more years and then walk away, allowing his prosecution for, overthrowing the United States. So, that's it.
How did we get to this point where the Secret Service is either wittingly or unwittingly going in and lying about an insurrection?
Oh, boy. We've seen a gradual radicalization of law enforcement in the United States. I mean, one of the hallmarks of encroaching fascism and authoritarianism is that the referees, the legal people, the police, all become habituated to this kind of culture of violence. I mean, it's kind of amazing to see what is happening at the hearing. I mean, we've already made assumptions about what we think Trump did. But what they've done is kind of beautiful storytelling. It's kind of a concentric circle from an outside circle of police officers, people who were hurt that day, then a medium circle of people around Trump, and then to the core, to the heart of the conspiracy, Donald Trump himself. And that's the nail they're going to hit on the head tomorrow, because it may be their last hearing. It's a kind of closing argument, and they just want to say, this guy was responsible. He knew exactly everything was going on with a potential violent insurrection of the United States, something we've never experienced before, the worst situation we've had since the Civil War. And he was in the heart of it. And he just wanted to go there.
He wanted to overthrow the United States and be in the middle of the violence. I'm curious why. Twitler is a weak and pathetic person. Did he actually believe the police were so weak that the mob would beat them down and they wouldn't do anything? Because I did not expect that. Usually police are violent and reactionary to the point that I would have expected hundreds of Republicans to be laying dead on the ground pulling that stuff. If it was there, would the police have been even more subservient to the mob that was attacking America? The police are instruments of the overthrow of the United States. We can't forget that. So if you like those videos, please help. The YouTube algorithm is horribly biased against, progressives. And the Republicans have massive amounts of money just to buy it off. So, every time you like, every time you put a comment down below, helps us out. So like, subscribe, and if you really want to help the environment, down below is a link to a GoFundMe page where it has a brand new power generation that is 0% carbon emission and one of the cheapest productions of electricity the world has ever had. So go down, help us out.